Man, every time I come up here, I try to have a little bit of a prayer request to ask the church to pray for me about something. So I need your help again. I need you to pray for me because I came to a very, very realization, a very scary realization the other week, okay? One, I figured out and realized that when I get old, I am going to look like my father. And that's really, really scary. We actually have a picture of what I'm going to look like as an old man. There I am, right there, okay? If you've seen my dad before, that is my dad, right there. Like, it looks like him. I have a little bit fuller head of hair than him, but man, it was super, super scary when I realized that, because it was this face app that they do, and I was like, whoa, I'm actually going to look like him. Christina, that's what you have to look forward to, okay? I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. And I also realized, not just with my looks, but I came to the scary realization, and this was actually more scary than the looks part. I came to the realization that I'm actually more and more becoming like my dad as well. Has anybody ever come to that realization that you are like your parents? It's scary a little bit, right? And this is kind of the breaking point, right? As a kid, my dad would, at our house, he would always, when I was young, he would always be working on the yard, right? Always the yard. And I'm like, why do you care so much about your yard? It's grass, right? Like, who cares? Not understanding. Well, the other week, man, I was slaving away in my yard, right? I was weed eating, I was mowing, I was trimming the hedges, and this was the tipping point for me. Like, that wasn't a big deal, but the tipping point for me was I had the audacity, y'all. I had the audacity to take a picture of my yard because I was so proud of it. I was like, man, my yard looks pretty good. And I took a picture and I realized, dude, I'm becoming my father. That's a very scary thing. So I need you to pray for me. Like, it's gotten to the point now, like, I'm not in any way, shape, or form, like, great at taking care of my yard. I'm not saying that, but it's gotten to the point when I'm driving through neighborhoods or I'm walking, right? I'm walking through my neighborhood, I'm like looking at people's yards, okay? Like, I'm not looking at their cars, not looking at their houses, I'm looking at their yards. I'm like, yo, is that Bermuda? Is it St. Augustine? How many times a day do you water your yard? What kind of stuff do you put in it? And I'm comparing my yard to somebody else's yard. Anybody else been there, or is that just me? Okay, thank you. Like, it's like, bro. And sometimes I walk by, I'm like, man, my yard's way better than their yard. And then there's other times I'm like, oh, my yard is terrible compared to this person's yard, right? And it's this, like, and the worst one is my neighbor's yard, okay? My neighbor's yard is literally pristine. It is amazing. It's the best yard I've ever seen. And it's gotten it's like discouraged me a lot. Like, I don't even care about my yard anymore because it's like, there's no way I'm going to get to that level. There's no way I'm going to make it look that good. I've tried it, I do okay, but it's really never, ever going to happen. And it's just, this comparison game, right? I'm like, dude, I'm looking at other people's yards, like, hey, my yard's better than yours, but then I'm looking at his yard, I'm like, man, my yard is not that great, not that good compared to his. And it's to that point to where, like I am a little, I guess, discouraged and a little insecure when he's working on his yard and I'm working on my yard. I won't even go outside when he's working in his yard anymore, y'all. I'm so serious. It is so embarrassing. And it's just like, man, what am I going to do? And I just kind of, I'm using this illustration to kind of go into what I'm talking about today, that it's so easy to compare ourselves to other people, yes? It's so easy when we have something that's good, like I thought my yard looked amazing. It's so easy when we have something that's awesome, that's amazing, that's beautiful, but then to compare it to somebody else's that might be better, man, can I tell you, that will kill our security, that will kill our identity, and it will kill our contentment. And the title of my message today is The Battle for Contentment. I say battle for contentment because I think when we think of contentment, we think, oh, well, it's just going to happen, right? It will just come. It's just going to come and fall on us if we just like lay on the couch and eat Doritos all day, right? Like it's just going to happen. No, but it's a fight. We have to strive for it. It's a battle to be content. And I remember just a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, man, I was living in this battle because, man, I was so just discontent with where I was in life. On the outside, everything looked great, everything looked good. And I'm not saying that there was like, sin issues or anything like that, but I'm saying, man, I began to compare. I began to look around and I became so discontent with the situation I was in, with the circumstances that I was having to deal with, and I was so frustrated. I was negative. I was pessimistic. I was cynical, right? I was so frustrated and defeated because I felt like I was failing. And I began to even have these thoughts like all of us do, but we don't really ever like to talk about it, especially in church. We don't like to talk about it. I began to have these thoughts, man, if I could just maybe be in a different place, everything would be okay. Or if I knew different people, everything would be different. Or if things just changed just slightly, or if I could do something new, man, everything would change and I would feel better. Real life, real thoughts. I remember I was in Israel. And I was sitting on the Sea of Galilee and I was praying, but I really wasn't praying, I was more complaining, right? Anybody been there? I was really complaining, like, why is it like this? Why do I feel like this? Why am I so frustrated and discontent? And God caused me to realize that I was looking around and I was looking at other people's lawns and I was looking at other people's results and I was looking at where other people were and I was looking at what other people had and I wasn't watering my own yard. And God just He said this to me. He said, it's hard to water your own grass when you're too busy looking at somebody else's yard. I'm like, whoa, and God began to take me through this process of, man, what does it really look like to be content where we are right now? If nothing else changed in your life, right? If the job stayed the same, kids were still bad, come on somebody, right? If nothing changed, I'm not saying we shouldn't want change, but I'm saying if nothing changed, would you still be okay? Would you be content? I think a big reason why a lot of times we're discontent, why we're always searching, why we're always looking, why we are always maybe frustrated and unhappy, even though we're Christians and we should have the joy of the Lord, right? But why we're frustrated sometimes, it's not because the situation we are in is so bad, but it's because we are not stewarding the situation very well. Is we do not like stewarding things that are difficult, that are hard, and that are frustrating. I realized something through this process that, man, my situation is actually really, really good. Man, I have an amazing marriage. It's not perfect. I'm not perfect. She's not perfect. But man, an awesome marriage. We have a beautiful home that we got to purchase and that we live in. And we go to an amazing church. I serve an incredible pastor with an incredible team. We have an awesome youth ministry that God is moving in. I began to realize, man, my situation is actually really good. I just wasn't stewarding it very well. And the change happened not because the situation changed, but because I began to look at it and steward it in a different way. And God began to show me, man, this is how you have to be content. This is how you live content in your life. What in your life are you seeing as a problem or a negative, but maybe you are not stewarding very well? This can be true in ministry, it can be true in our jobs, it can be true with our kids, it can be true in our marriages, it can be true in our personal lives. Because if we don't learn to steward the things that God has given to us, can I tell you this, church? It doesn't matter where you go, it doesn't matter what job you have, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter who you're married to. You will not be content if you don't know how to steward what you have. It doesn't matter. if you don't know how to steward, because contentment will require stewardship. It doesn't just come, even though we'd like for it to. It doesn't just show up on the doorstep like Amazon Prime 2-day shipping. Okay, I wish we could buy it. But no, it will require stewardship from our lives. Parable of the talents. Let me walk you through it really quick. We know the parable, most of us, but if you don't, I'm going to give you a run through. There was 3 servants, 1 master. The master has some talents to give to his servants. The first servant gets 5 talents. The second servant got 2 talents. And the third servant got 1 talent. And the master goes away for a little while. And it says the first servant with 5 talents produced 5 more talents. So he has 10 talents now. It says the one with the 2 talents, he did something with what had been given to him, and he produced 2 more, so now he has 4 talents. But it says the third one that only had 1 talent, it says he buried it in the ground. He didn't do anything with what had been given. I don't know why. Maybe it says he thought he knew who the master was. Maybe he was trying to protect himself. He was afraid of losing it. Maybe he just didn't think that it was much, whatever it might have been. But it says the master came back, and he loved what the person with 5 talents did. He gave him more possessions and more land and more property. He loved what the person with the 2 talents did. He said, man, I'm going to give you more of my possessions, more of my kingdom, my property, all of that. But then he went to the one, he said, you wicked servant. Man, it's like, why is he so intense? Why is he so mad? Why is he so angry? It's because that servant didn't do anything. It didn't produce anything out of what the master had given him. And there's a problem if we have opportunities or situations or whatever it might be. It can be a job, it can be a ministry position, it can be a leadership role, it can be just a group of people that look up to you, it can be a realm of influence, it can be finances, it can be friends, relationships, it can be our marriages, whatever it might be. But all of us have something of value that God has given us. Yes. All of us. But the problem comes when we just let it sit and we don't try to produce anything out of what God has given us. What are you producing? What are you making? What are you doing with what God has given you? Are you stewarding? Not just the good things, but are you stewarding the frustrating things in your life? Are you stewarding the negative things in your life? Are you stewarding the things that are hard and difficult in your life? Or are you only looking to steward the things that look good, the things that are good, the things that feel good? What are you stewarding? Are you stewarding everything well? I'll give you a hint. This isn't true 100% of the time, but a lot of times if you are not content with something that God has given you, there's a good chance that you are not stewarding them well. Stewarding well means not just taking care of it, not just protecting it, not burying it, but making something out of it for Him. And many times we don't steward things well because of a lot of reasons, but I wrote down 3 that I'm just going to share. First reason why we don't steward things well is because they are monotonous. Right? Like, we like the new things. We like the awesome things. We like that camp feeling, right? We like hearing that 1,000 people got saved. Man, we like the newness, the freshness. We like different. We like the new job opportunity. We like the new salary. We like all of that. But we don't necessarily like the monotonous. We don't like, oh, well, I'm just going to go and I'm going to serve in his kids again. Or, man, I'm just going to show up to church again. Or, man, I don't like this job right now, but God hasn't told me to move, so I'm just going to show up. And, man, I'm going to do my best again. I'm going to honor my boss even though he doesn't honor me again. We don't like the monotonous. And because we don't like the monotonous, we end up not stewarding it very well. Another reason why we don't steward things well is because they aren't exactly what we wanted to do. Maybe it's what God had for you, but it's not what you wanted to do. And the issue comes is like, man, people all the time are like, yo, can I serve? Yeah, sure. And man, we start everybody off stacking chairs. We start everybody off serving food. That's how you start, right? And people will do it for like 1 to 2, maybe 3, 4 weeks, but then it never fails. People are like, hey, like I think I'm just gonna transition out. It's like you weren't here, so go ahead. but it's like people kind of are thinking, man, I didn't really want to stack chairs, man. I wanted to preach. All right, well. I didn't want to serve food. I wanted to sing on the worship team. This isn't what I wanted, man. I didn't want to take orders at my job. I thought I was going to be the one giving orders at my job. Oh, I didn't know that I was going to have to, like, help my wife clean the house. I thought we were going to get married and just, like, chill. You know what I'm saying? Like what? That's not what I wanted to do. So we stop stewarding because that's not what we wanted to do. But maybe it's what God had for you to do. And the final one, this is probably one of the biggest ones, we're looking at what other people have or get to do and comparing it to what we have and what we get to do. Comparison, right? I think I need to say this to somebody. Maybe there's people in here, you have 1 or 2 talents right now, but you're looking at somebody that has 5 talents and you're comparing yourself to them. And can I tell you, that will destroy your joy. It will destroy your peace. It will destroy your security, your confidence faster than anything else. And God's trying to tell somebody, stop comparing your 2 talents to somebody else's 5 talents. And when we compare, it ruins so many people because we're watching people that have different situations and circumstances and we're thinking, man, I need that promotion. I need a car like that. I wish my husband or wife was like theirs. Man, I wish I had that ability that they have. But I think all of us, including myself, we need to trust this, that if God wanted you to have 5 and if God knew you were ready to have 5, guess what? You would have 5, right? Can we just trust the Master? Can we just trust the Father that, man, if you were supposed to have 5, or if you were supposed to have 10, or if you were supposed to do that, or do this, or have that, and you were ready for it, man, I believe that God is so good that He would give it to you. And if you just have 2, guess what? That's okay. Because if we keep comparing this, and this is what happens a lot, when we start comparing, we will start chasing instead of stewarding. Like, if we start comparing, and I've seen it, I've lived it, I've done it, I promise you, like, I'm going to take you to youth pastor world really quick, okay? I know a lot of you don't really live there, but there's something literally called the Wednesday night feed scroll on Instagram, okay? Like, it's literally known, like, in youth pastor world, that after every night, this is what youth pastors do. They get on their Instagram and they start scrolling to look what other people did. What are they doing? They're comparing. Because everybody on Instagram knows how to take that picture from the back of the room that makes it look like there's like 1 billion people in the room and there's like 54, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, whoa! It's like, whoa, how'd they get so many people in the room? We couldn't even turn on our projectors tonight, man. Like, woo! I am missing it. Man, and it's like they got 54 people in the room. Thousands got saved, especially through the live feed. And when you start comparing, you will start chasing instead of stewarding. There's an 80-20 principle that I heard about. We understand that no spouse, no church, no parent, no kid, no job is perfect, but most of the time, where we're at, it's not always true, but most of the time where we're at, you know, the place, the people, the friends, the church, all that, has around 80% of things that we like and enjoy. You know, about 80%. It's like, oh, I like this. But what happens is we like and love 80%, and there's usually around 20% of things that we don't like. But what happens is when we are comparing and when we start chasing, is we are discontent already. So when that happens, because of our discontentment, even when we have a great 80%, instead of stewarding the 80%, we will start chasing the 20%. But I get what I'm saying? This is why we see so much divorce. This is why midlife crisis happens. This is why people leave jobs regularly. This is why we do social media instead of real connection. Because so many people are discontent with their 80, so they chase after a 20. But once they get to the 20 only has 20, and now they're missing the 80, and they're still discontent. Can I just, man, this is what discontentment will cause us to do. It will cause us to chase after 20% that we don't have instead of stewarding 80% that we do have. And I'm just here today to maybe just speak to somebody. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're dealing with, but husbands and wives, don't leave your 80 for a 20. I'm asking that church member, don't leave your 80 for a 20. Business employee of a good company, don't leave your 80 for a 20. And I'm here to tell somebody today, instead of continually chasing and chasing and chasing, maybe it's time for you to stop for a second and simply start stewarding what you do have. God's not looking at how many talents you're given. He's looking at how well you steward them. That's what he's looking at, because if we don't steward well, we will never be content, because we will always be chasing after the next thing. Many of us are discontent where we are because we're not stewarding the place that we're at. We're not stewarding the place that we are at because we're always looking for the next thing, but we're always looking for the next thing because we are discontent. Do you see that it's a cycle? Do you see? And we have to break the cycle, but the only way you can break the cycle is by stewarding exactly what you have and exactly where you are right now. We have to steward what is in our hand right now. The way you become content is by stewarding the very thing you have right now. The way you put yourself in a position to receive more from God is not by chasing something, it's by stewarding the very thing that you have in your hand right now. The way you go to the next level is not by doing whatever it takes to get there, but it's by stewarding the level that you are at right now. I don't have a lot, man. I need, or if I had a different position, or if I was just in a different place, or maybe just a different situation, or maybe if I had better resources, or better mentors, or better parents, man, things would be different. No. Listen, if you won't steward one talent well, you cannot steward 5 talents well. You cannot. So maybe God gave you one talent to see what you would do with it, and to see also if you would be content with it. Because one thing that I've learned, listen, we've had 100 kids in the building. We've had 300 kids in the building. You want to know what was the same about both? I always wanted more. Being very honest this Sunday morning. Always wanted more. It was never enough, man. I got to 300, I wanted 4. Got to 4, I wanted 5. If you are not content with your one talent, I promise you, you will not be content with 5. Because once you get to 5, you're going to want 10. Once you get to 10, you'll want 20. Once you get to 20, you want 50. You want to know why? Because discontentment never gets full. Discontentment never gets full. It's a story. In an interview, I'll say this really quickly, about Tom Brady. It was after he won his 3rd Super Bowl, his 2nd, I think, Super Bowl MVP or whatever, and they're interviewing him, man, and they're like, hey, you're married to a model, you're making millions, you're a 3-time Super Bowl winner, 2-time MVP, you know, man, how's life? And he goes, man, it's pretty awesome, it's pretty amazing, but he said, something's missing. Out of his mouth. I wish I had the video to show you, but he said, something's missing. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know. Something's missing. You know what that is? Discontentment. Discontentment has everything he could ever want, ever need. People dream, kill, die for stuff like what he has. He says something's missing. It's discontentment. Can I tell you, stewardship is for his honor, not our gain. Most new things come not while chasing, but while stewarding. I'm going to show it to you. The story of David and Goliath, right? Most famous Sunday school story ever. People that have never been to church have heard of David and Goliath. And I'll just kind of tell the story just really quick. I mean, Israel is at war with the Philistines. David is the youngest of 7 brothers, I believe. And the rest of the brothers are out at war, and David's kind of hanging out with the sheep because he was a shepherd. He's probably playing the harp. And his dad comes to him and says, hey, I need you to drop something off to your brothers. He's like, okay, cool. He goes, and he drops him off. And the brother's like, what are you doing here? He's like, whoa, what have I done now? And he's like, why can't I be here? Anyway, and then he hears the Philistine guy, this big giant of a man, literally 9 feet tall, named Goliath, covered head to toe in armor, start blaspheming God. He's like, is anybody going to do anything about this? And they're like, no, not really. He's like, well, I'll go take him out. And he grabs some stones, and he looks Goliath in the eye. They exchange some words, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, boom, dead, okay? That's like the fast version of the story. He chops his head off. It's like, boom. It's like, whatever. Come at me again, okay? And he gets promoted. At that point, he goes to the palace, and he is the attendant for Saul. But then eventually Saul goes crazy, and anyway, eventually he becomes king, right? Let's go backwards in the story. The very first part of the story, David's dad, Jesse, father, he comes to him and says, hey, I need you to go drop off a package. I need you to drop off some food. I need you to drop off some Chick-fil-A sandwiches to your brother, okay? It's not Sunday, so it's open, all right? And he says, I need you to drop off some Chick-fil-A sandwiches. It's like, okay. And the father puts a package in David's hand, and David doesn't try to chase after anything. He wasn't looking for Goliath. He didn't even know what was going on. Like, you can tell by the story. He's like, who is this? What's going on? What's he saying? He wasn't looking for anything. He wasn't chasing after anything. He just was taking the very thing that the Father put in his hands. Y'all know where I'm going now, man. Woo! Okay, and remind you, he's already been anointed king, right? By the man of God, Samuel. He said, this is going to be the next king of Israel. So David could have easily said, no, like, you go do it, Dad, or no, they can come and get it if they want it, because guess what? I'm about to be a king. God said it. The prophet said it. I'm about to be a king. This is too small. This is too little for me. But David took what looked to be so small, right? And he took what the Father put in his hand, and he stewarded it well. And God used David's stewardship to be the very thing that took David to the next level. God used his stewardship to bring him to his Goliath moment. How many next level moments, opportunities have we missed because we decided that we didn't want to be a steward of something that was too small? Because we didn't want to do, it was an everyday thing. We didn't want to do an everyday thing. Because God told David, hey, through the prophet, hey, you're going to be the next king of Israel, but he never told him how he's going to get him there. God used the stewardship of David in that moment to promote him and to take him to the next level. And I just think there's people in here that you've been chasing to get to that next level. You've been chasing to get to that place. And you've been rejecting all the things and all the stuff that God has put into your hand right now because you are chasing. And God is trying to tell you, no. You don't need to chase after that next level. You don't need to chase after that next position. You don't need to chase after that next thing. But simply put, you need to steward what you have in your hand right now, and I will use the stewardship that you do, I will use it to promote you to the next level. This is what he did with David. This is why David in Psalm chapter 23, first verse, he says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Why? Because David was content in the Lord. It didn't matter to David. Listen, the reason why he was willing to steward this is because it didn't matter to David if he was in the field or in a palace. It didn't matter to David if he had a crown on his head or a staff in his hands. It didn't matter to David if he was over sheep or over a nation, because he was content in the Lord. That is good, y'all. Like, that is the Lord speaking to people and speaking to me still and saying, man, it doesn't matter. Man, we have got to be content, not in what we have, not in what we do, not in where we go, but content in Him. Because here's the deal. David was going to steward anything that was given to him because he was content in the Lord, and he wanted to make something beautiful out of it for God, not for him. I think some of us are also discontent because we are trying to make something beautiful for ourselves instead of Him. Paul writes to Timothy, and he tells him in 1 Timothy chapter 6, he says, Timothy, there are people who think that godliness is a means to financial gain. But godliness with contentment is great gain. There were people essentially that were using their spirituality or their religion to gain personally and politically and financially. And Paul is telling Timothy, he's saying, listen, and he's telling us today, he says, man, do not fall into that. Don't fall into that. He says, because godliness with contentment is great gain. How many of you know you can be godly but not content? You can be godly but not content. And so Paul is pairing them together, and he's saying, listen, Timothy, the goal is godliness, yes, but the goal is also contentment. And when you can have godliness and contentment, you have already gained so much. You have already won. You already have something more valuable than anything else. He says it's more valuable than property. It's more valuable than position. It's more valuable than influence or power or money or accolades or achievements. He's saying contentment is so much more valuable. Because, man, how amazing is it to be able to be content, like Paul said, when I lack, but also be content when I have much and plenty. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know who's in here, but man, is there anybody that is just tired and ready to stop chasing? Is there anybody just ready and wanting to finally just say, you know what? I'm no longer going to try to make it happen on my own or by myself, but I'm going to take care of what God has given to me. He's saying contentment is so valuable because of this. When we are content, like truly content, that means that we are able to be content in the palace and in the fields. Are you able to be content in the field as well as the palace? It's easy to be content in the palace. It's easy to be content when we get the raise at first, when we get the new position at first, when we get married at first, right? But like I said, discontentment never gets full. Are you able to be content in the field? And this is why this is important, because a true content person is the type of person that God can use to impact the world. Why? Because then it's not about us, it's about him, because we're content no matter what happens. We're content no matter if we get the job or not. I'm not saying ambition is bad. I have lots of ambitions, but am I content whether or not they get met or not? My goals, my wants, my desires. A truly content person is a person that God can truly use to impact the world. So what type of person have you been living as? A discontent one or a content one? A bad steward in some areas or a good steward in some areas? Which one is it? I want you to just bow your heads and close your eyes and just listen to me really quick, because I have just some things that maybe might help you. Do any of these describe you? And I'm not trying to come at anybody, but I really want some self-examination this morning. A bad steward will always complain about what they don't have. Bad steward will always look at what others have and compare it to themselves. A bad steward will always have on to the next one mentality. Well, I got that raise, now it's on to the next one. I got this job, now it's on to the next one. Man, I did this, now it's on to the next thing. A bad steward will usually be discontent and frustrated internally. And a bad steward will be making something for themselves and not for God. A good steward, though, will be grateful for what they do have. A good steward will be faithful to what has been given to them, and they will try to make the most out of it and not give up on it. A good steward will enjoy the journey and the process. A good steward will be content and will be joyful. And a good steward will be doing what they are doing for the Lord and not for themselves. So which one are you today? And I hope that you don't just automatically say, man, I'm content, I'm fine, or I'm a good steward, but that you would actually think about it and say, man, in what areas? I'm not saying it's your whole life. There are areas that you can be content and then areas you can be discontent. But which one are you really right now? In your job, are you a good steward or a bad steward? Here at the church, have you been a good or bad steward? With opportunities and commitments, are you a good or bad steward? In your marriage, have you been a good or a poor steward? I can tell you right now, God wants to use you. If He didn't, He would have never given you anything in the first place. But man, if we really want to live content, if we want to stop chasing, if we want to produce something beautiful for God, can I tell you, man, we have to choose to be good stewards. You can open up your eyes. I just want to say this last part just as we end. I think many times we think, man, as soon as I get here, or as soon as I get there, or as soon as this happens, or as soon as that happens, or as soon as I hit this mark, man, everything will be good, everything will be awesome. And I want to say that you need to steward what you have now, not what you're wanting to have. And what I mean by that is so many times maybe you want more responsibility, but you're not even stewarding the responsibility that you have right now. Maybe you're saying, man, I want my marriage to change and to become stronger, whatever. But man, you have to be willing to steward where you're at now. You have to, and you have to be willing to, man, at least communicate, right? Communication is good stewardship. Or maybe you're like, man, I wish I could do more with the church, or man, the church has so many. Or you feel like the church has problems or issues, but man, why don't you contribute to it and be a good steward and then begin to serve the church? We have to choose to be stewards of what position, what place, what things, what opportunities that we have. I want you to write down or to have some of these reflection questions to go into the rest of your day with. In what areas of your life have you been a poor steward? In what ways Have you compared yourself to other things or other people? And what are you going to do to change, to go from those areas of being bad stewardship to good stewardship? And then finally, I encourage you, man, ask somebody that you trust, a spouse, a family member, a close friend, man, how have I had a bad stewardship attitude in my life? The reason why I preach this message is because I believe that discontentment can ruin not just our spiritual lives, but it can ruin our lives if we do not learn how to be content in Him. Because then we will always just chase and chase and chase and chase and chase. What's in your hand right now? What opportunities do you have, relationships that you have, that you can turn into something beautiful for His glory? What do you have in your hand that you can say, man, I'm content even if it stays at this? If you could bow your heads and close your eyes, just as ask some people to be honest today. If you're here and you say, Pastor Jackson, I've been listening to you, and to be completely honest, man, I've been chasing for a long time. I've been chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. I've been looking for the next thing, or for the next relationship, or maybe for the next position, or the next salary, or I've been just searching for the next friendship, or whatever it might be. Man, I've just been searching. I've been chasing instead of stewarding what God has given to me. And you say, it's caused discontentment in my life. I've been discontent because even whenever I get to the next point, man, I'm always looking and wanting more. Always desiring more. But now it's time. You say, man, I don't want to live a discontent life any longer. But I want to live a life of contentment. No, that doesn't mean everything's perfect. But it means I'm going to start stewarding what I have well. I'm going to start stewarding in a better way. I'm going to start not just caring for, but I'm going to make something beautiful out of what I do have. And it's not going to be for my glory. It's going to be for His. First, we need to repent in ways that we've been discontent and bad stewards. But then we just need to say, if you're saying, man, I just need help from the Lord, to stop chasing and to actually start stewarding what I do have. You want to be content, but you need to start stewarding first. That's you, with every head bowed, every eye closed. When I count to 3, would you lift up your hand? Because we want to pray that this happens. I'm telling you, I live this. My prayer is that, man, I preach out of an overflow of what I've gone through and what I've seen and what God has shown me. So, man, there's no shame here. Okay? You don't have to hide anything, but you say, man, I've been discontent, but I want to be content. But I know that means I got to start stewarding, not what I want, but what I have right now. If that's you, on the count of 3, would you lift up your hand so I can pray with you? 1, 2, be honest with yourself. 3, right now. Come on. Come on. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pray over every hand that is lifted, but then I want to give every hand that is lifted. There's a lot of hands that were lifted, an opportunity to come to the front. You can do it as I pray. You can do it after I pray. That's fine. But I just believe that you need a moment with the Lord, just like I did, that says, God, I'm tired of chasing. I'm tired of being discontent. I'm ready to be content and to steward what I have. So you can come even as I start praying, even after I pray. Those hands, all those hands that were lifted. Jesus, I pray right now, for every hand that is lifted, for every person that is beginning to come down to the front, that, Lord, my prayer and just cry to you would be that we would learn how to be content in you, Lord. Not in what we have, not in where we go, not in what is offered to us, but Lord, I pray that we, Father, would be content simply in you, that no matter if we are in the palace or we're in the field, no matter what we're over or what we're not over, that, Lord, that we would be able to have that we would be people that are content, Father. And Lord, my prayer to you and my ask would be for these people that are here, that Lord, that you would show them what you showed me, that their situation is actually good. Their situation is from you. That Lord, that they've actually been blessed by you. And Lord, when we begin to steward that in the right way and steward it in a healthy way, Lord, when we begin to do that, man, that's when contentment will come. I pray that you would set us free from chasing. You would set us free from just going after the next thing. But that, Lord, we would learn to be content by stewarding, Lord. God, give us the ability to steward where we're at now, that we would trust you for the growth. We would trust you for the rest. We would trust you for what you want to do. But God, put us in a place that even if it doesn't happen, even if our goals aren't met, even if our expectations aren't met, that we're content with that because we still have you. Father, I pray that, Lord, for people that are tired and exhausted, that they would finally be able to receive joy again, finally able to receive peace again, finally able to receive rest again. Why? Because they are living in contentment instead of chasing. Father, we love you. We thank you for these people that are up here, that for the others that raised their hand. We thank you for our entire congregation. I pray that as we leave this morning, that you would bless us as we go. You would protect them, bring them back to us this coming Wednesday and next Sunday. I pray that every single individual would practice contentment by stewarding what they have in their hand right now. Let our stewardship be the way that you take us to the next level. We love you, and we pray all of this in the awesome and in the mighty name of Jesus. And everybody said, amen. Thank you. Y'all be blessed this week as you go.